My guest has a story that starts in Surrey, England, and finds her now in Surrey, BC. Leonie Serediuk immigrated to Canada with her family when she was just 10 years old. That was right at the end of World War II. But the first stop was Insinger, Saskatchewan. This is quite a story, Leonie, and it reads like a novel. And I have to say, this is maybe just the second time in my life where I felt I loved the author before I met her. It is a treasure to have you here.
Thank you.
I just want to catch up some of the history. Your dad died when you were little. Your mom became a war bride with a new husband. That's really how you came to Canada.
That's right.
Mom married a Canadian.
Right.
Insinger, where is that?
It's southwest of Yorkton.
Oh, well, we've heard of Yorkton.
Yorkton, yeah.
And it is a really little community.
And it's a tiny little community, and I think it's almost obsolete now, but yeah, that's my beginnings in Canada.
Ukrainian.
Ukrainian
Lots
settlement, which taught me many, many lessons.
Wonderfully, wonderfully shared in your book. Your youngest brother, Jack's brain cancer was a real catalyst in your faith.
Right. He died when he was in his 30s. Of a brain tumor, and he'd been struggling with it for about 3 years, and we struggled along with him. And it was like the Lord telling me there's more to life than this. And somebody gave me my a living Bible, which I really grooved on, and that's where I really grew from in my faith, because I knew that we needed something more than just everyday living.
You received your RN at 21. You married your one and only love, Gordon. I love that you say he looked like David Niven.
Oh, yeah.
But it's kind of a Gigi story. You know the musical Gigi?
Right, right.
You know, she was that fun and awkward little girl, and overnight she became... You had known him as a younger man.
Yes, I knew him as a kid.
With zero interest.
Right, yeah. I had no use for him, and he had no use for me. I was 10 and he was 16. And but later on, the story was different. Yeah, it was just, you know, a passionate love that we felt for one another, so that was good. Yeah.
And that deep love and deep commitment we're going to discover is a key to making a very difficult journey a royal one. After 30 years of nursing, that was a love for you. And how many children?
We've got 3 children and 9 grandchildren, one of which is in heaven, and that's the one I wrote the first book about.
And still will I trust him.
Right.
Yeah. Let's just touch on this, because this was preparation ground as well.
Yes.
Tara the teacher.
Tara the teacher, she taught us compassion. She taught us how to look at the seemingly unlovely with a compassionate heart, and to see beyond the outside, the exterior of a person, to what was deeper inside. And I remember once when I was praying over her in the facility that she was in, and her head was always going, you know, she was very contorted and awkward, jerky movements all the time. And this one time she was just a baby still, and I held her in my arms and I was praying over her. And all of a sudden her head stopped moving and she gazed into my eyes, and it was like her calling out to me, "My spirit is alive and well. See me, hear me, past all of this." And I transferred that now to my husband. See me, I'm behind all of this. See me, I'm still alive. I'm not just this person in the shell of Alzheimer's. I am this person underneath. And to validate life is so precious. Doesn't matter what we seem on the outside.
This precious little baby was born with
Microcephaly. Yes, her brain didn't develop properly, and so she would never walk, talk, speak, even eat by herself. So, yes.
Expected to live only 2 years.
Expected to live 2
years. And
years.
she almost made it to age 10.
Yes, and I dovetailed the first book into the second book.
Yes, so I actually started with this book and then realized that you'd wonderfully encapsulated this story in the beginning of your journey with your husband.
Right, yes, right, yeah. So we say how she passed away, and the beauty of that too, and how it helped us in this other journey prepare our hearts for how to minister to the handicapped, the challenged, and to anybody really that's suffering in their own personhood, because we walk around seemingly all together, and yet we are all struggling inside. And to see past, you know, sometimes we see anger and all that, trying to learn to see past that, to that hurting soul that's underneath. And so that's what it taught us, taught me.
You use a beautiful picture of a family mobile. All the members of the family in that mobile responding differently to life's trials.
Right, yes.
But you say once again the family mobile was shaken with your husband's diagnosis.
Exactly.
When was that?
My husband's diagnosis was in 2004, and he'd had a diagnosis of cancer and had a bowel resection, and it was that triggered him. It seems like stress triggers the Alzheimer person even further into the disease. And I already look back in hindsight and see that he did have Alzheimer's for some time, but I wasn't recognizing it. I blamed it on a whole lot of other things, and this is the understanding wasn't there, and I desperately wanted other people to know that sometimes, you know, there are things going on that you're not even aware of, and so you respond in a way that's not very attractive, you know. And so, yes, right. So then because of that surgery, it pushed him over further into his Alzheimer's, which was already in the process, because when he had his CAT scan, the brain cortex had already shrunk, that the brain cells were already dying, so, and it was evident on the CAT scan, so that there were things happening in his brain long before his diagnosis.
Here's your dashing David Niven.
Right. And he was still dashing, and he still was, and he still really is up to now, except, you know, he is wasted a little, and of course it destroys something of the outward appearance. Yeah.
The last half of the book is primarily your journal entries.
Right.
You know, a day in the life, the real situations, the mood changes, hostility that can break out. A friend of mine, her father has been in a daycare program with Alzheimer's, and because of hostility, he's been ousted. I mean, these are some of the real challenges.
Very difficult to handle, yes. Day by day. If I hadn't have written all this down, I would have never remembered it, because it was totally devastating. And I look back and I thought, how did I get through this? But I know how I got through it. Because when I was in the convent many years ago,
in England,
and I was in it was an orphanage, and I didn't realize it was an orphanage. I still had a mother, but when I was this young child, and there was this dream. It was almost like a dream, and yet it wasn't a dream. But it was like this airplane. It was during the World War II, and
wasn't it the London Blitz?
It was a London Blitz, and it was like there was always fear, because there was all these planes and bomb droppings and shrapnel flying everywhere. And anyhow, it was this one afternoon, I remember, mandatory rest that we had to take in the convent. And I guess I must have been about 4 years of age. And there was this, like it was a friendly plane swooping down to tell this scared little kid that was lying on the floor, because we lay on the floor, and don't be afraid, little one, for I will take care of you. And that has sustained me. And I look back and I think, I didn't realize at the time, but God was there. God was there. God was there. He was